Hello! At a young age, Peter Parker lost his parents in a car accident. The boy grows up with Uncle Ben and Aunt May and loves them like his own parents, who have left more mysteries than memories after their death. One of these mysteries is Richard Parker's secret folder of scientific research notes, which he hid in a briefcase he left for his son. Having grown up, Peter, interested in his father's work, learns that Dr. Curtis Connors, an expert on reptiles and a scientist at the Oscorp Corporation, was his research partner. Peter decides to visit Connors and gets into the corporation's tower for a tour, where he becomes a victim of a genetically modified spider from the scientist's secret experiment. As a result of genetic mutation, the guy gets incredible abilities, which he will have to use in his fight against the mad scientist. Little Peter is playing hide and seek with his father. Closing his eyes with his hands, he counts to 10 and sets out to find the dad. The boy looks through all the rooms of the house and enters Richard's study, but instead of his father, all he finds is a mess on his desk, and the window sashes with broken glass rattling in the wind. Richard immediately comes to his son's call and stops the game. The man hurriedly opens his stash in the drawer of his desk and pulls out a secret file folder filled with documents, frantically checking its contents. And then in a hurry, he erases the research findings from his blackboard. Concerned parents take the baby to Aunt May and Uncle Ben's house and hastily say goodbye to their son, leaving the boy in the care of relatives, with whom Peter is destined to stay forever. Now older, Peter Parker is passionate about photography and skateboarding and lives with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. The boy is almost recovered from the death of his parents in a terrible car accident when he suddenly finds Richard Parker's leather briefcase in the basement of the house. Uncle Ben tells him that Richard left it behind that night and asked him to save it for his son. Peter doesn't understand why. Inside, he only finds a newspaper clipping with a photo of his father with a work colleague, a man he doesn't know, with his right arm missing. After carefully examining the find again, Peter discovers the concealed contents in a secret pocket, the same folder his father had kept in the desk drawer. Inside is Richard's research data with an algorithm for the rate of biological decay. And Uncle Ben, who appears in the room, reveals another secret to Peter. The man in the photo next to Richard is named Curtis Connors, and he used to work with his father. The guy decides to meet Dr. Connors, and the next day, disguised as an intern, sneaks onto a tour inside the Oscorp Corporation tower. There, Peter unexpectedly meets Gwen Stacy, a girl he is secretly in love with. It turns out that she is Dr. Connors' senior intern and is giving the introductory tour. Curtis Connors, the famous herpetologist himself, comes out to greet the trainees. He jokes about his missing right arm and talks about his dream to bring about a radical biological revolution that will cure him and other patients whose body cells are dying from incurable diseases. The scientist invites the trainees to guess how he is trying to start the process of growing lost cells in the human body, and to his surprise, here's the correct answer.
Cross-species genetics.
It is Peter Parker who gives the right answer, which makes the scientist delighted. However, Curtis does not have time to learn the intern's name. A phone call forces him to leave. Eager to learn the secrets of the Oscorp Corporation in which his father was involved, Peter stealthily lags behind the group and sneaks into a secret laboratory with an innovative biological facility, where hundreds of poisonous spiders weave their nets. The small spiders start falling on the guy's head due to a system malfunction from touching the webs. After shaking them off, Parker hurries back to the group. He doesn't notice that he did bring one mutated spider with him from the lab after all, and it unexpectedly bites him in the neck. Peter returns home with a fever and a beastly appetite. In front of his aunt and uncle, who are completely shocked, he takes all the food, including a frozen lunch from the freezer, out of the fridge and into his room. The next morning, Peter undergoes inexplicable changes. The strength in his hands become much greater. His eyesight and hearing become incredibly sharp, and various objects stick to his hands and feet. Parker goes to Curtis Connors' house, this time introducing himself by his name. Having welcomed the son of his dead friend, Connors tells him about their experiments in cross-species genetics, which he never managed to finish after Richard's disappearance, along with his developments on the formula for the key process, the decay rate algorithm. In response, Peter, who has already carefully studied his father's research, provides Dr. Connors with a solution to the problem. Fascinated by Parker's scientific abilities, Dr. Connors invites him to Oscorp Laboratory, where he tells him about an ongoing experiment to isolate the lizard's ability to grow limbs and transfer it to mice. Here too, Peter demonstrates his brilliant mind by modeling an experiment that ends in success. On the evening of the same day, after an argument with Uncle Ben about coming home late, Peter wanders into a small store in a foul mood and quarrels with the clerk, who kicks him out because the guy is a few cents short of buying what he wants. Angry at the sarcastic, plump man, Peter is about to leave when he suddenly notices that the next customer behind him turns out to be a burglar. In retaliation for the clerk's rudeness, Parker refuses to help apprehend him, which unexpectedly leads to a terrible tragedy. The criminal runs into Uncle Ben, who is wandering around looking for Peter and blocks the robber's path, for which he receives a bullet in his stomach. Having lost the closest person who was like a father to him, Peter Parker, using his new inhuman abilities and a simple costume, sets out on a path of fighting evil. He decides to follow his father Richard's life principle, which Uncle Ben himself adhered to. If you can do anything to help people, it is your moral duty to do so. Every night, the guy listens to the police broadcast and immediately shows up on the scene upon hearing reports of robberies and crimes. Over time, the mysterious masked hero, already nicknamed the People's Vigilante, upgrades his costume. Meanwhile, a messenger from Norman Osborn, the head and founder of Oscorp, who is dying from a serious illness, presents Dr. Connors with a difficult choice. He tries to persuade him to conduct cross-species genetic experiments on humans, and having received a firm refusal, takes the vial with the finished formula that worked on mice and notifies the scientist that his lab will now be shut down. Dreaming of a cure and in a desperate situation, Connors decides to test the formula on himself in the hope of restoring his lost arm. The experiment begins with success. The scientist grows a new limb just like a reptile. Overjoyed, Connors tries to contact Parker, who is at dinner at the home of his girlfriend, Gwen Stacy. Her father turns out to be a police captain, strongly opposed to the universally beloved masked hero, causing Parker to have an unintentional argument with him. To prevent the escalating scandal, Gwen takes Parker to cool off on the balcony, where the hero gathers courage and reveals his secret to his girlfriend. The couple's date is interrupted by the howling of police sirens, so Parker immediately rushes to the scene. The patrolmen gather on the bridge, where a huge lizard is throwing cars stuck in traffic over the fence. It turns out that little Jack is in one of them, and Parker manages to pull the boy out of the burning trap and bring him back to his father.
Who are you? Spider-Man.
The next morning, Police Captain Stacy, who is unable to explain the appearance of a huge, furious reptile on the bridge, issues an arrest warrant for Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Peter shows up at Connor's lab to question him about the reptiles in order to get to know his enemy better. However, the previously friendly scientist now responds with restraint and hastily escorts Parker out. The guy is about to leave when suddenly he sees one of the scientist's test mice, who has torn apart the cage and crawled out to hunt for meat. Peter immediately realizes that Dr. Connors conducted an experiment on himself, and it was he who caused the mayhem on the bridge. With this statement, he goes to Captain Stacy, but the man does not take his word seriously and escorts him out of the station. Realizing that there is no hope for justice and that it was his solution to the equation that led to the disaster, Parker sets out to fight Connors alone. He quickly finds his hiding place in the sewers by following the little lizards, but there, the lizard catches him off guard, and Spider-Man has to flee in a hurry, leaving behind his personal camera he had brought to collect evidence.
Peter Parker. Spider-Man.
The lizard, on the other hand, sets out to destroy his enemy and once again takes him by surprise, putting up a fierce fight. All this while the legendary Stan Lee is putting books on shelves to the rhythmic classical music in his headphones. When the police arrive on the scene, Lizard and the Spider hide in the sewers. From there, Parker contacts Gwen and instructs her to go to the Oscorp Tower to prepare an antidote, while he follows Connor's trail and discovers his underground laboratory. There, he sees the villain's plan to spray the cross-species mixing formula over the entire city using the Ganali device in the corporate tower. Parker goes to Oscorp, while Captain Stacy dispatches all his patrol cars and helicopters, which, however, are hunting Spider-Man instead of the dangerous mutant lizard. The cops manage to stop the superhero with an electric shock, and after removing the mask from the Vigilante, Captain Stacy discovers that Peter Parker is behind it.
It's headed to Oscorp, and your daughter's there right now.
After hearing this, Captain Stacy releases the Spider and orders the officers not to shoot. At the same time, the pilot in the air reports to the captain that an unknown creature is climbing the Oscorp Tower, where Gwen is still waiting for the antidote to be finished. With 1 minute to go, Dr. Connors bursts through the armored door into the lab, fearing that the mad reptile may attack her and hoping to prevent the mad scientist's villainous plan. The girl hides in a lab locker along with the Ganali device. However, the villain reveals her hiding place and, without hurting the girl, takes the device. As soon as the monster is out of sight, the system alerts her that the antidote is ready. Meanwhile, mass evacuation is announced in the city. A live news report is broadcast from the scene, stating that Spider-Man, protector of the people, in his battle with the huge reptile, is moving towards Oscorp Tower. Yet the hero is wounded, and it's unknown how long he will be able to hold on. This plot is seen by the city worker Troy, whose son the Spider had saved on the bridge. The man asks his colleague to urgently call the crane operator, whom he orders to place their booms over the avenue, thereby giving Spider-Man some footing for his movement on the path to Oscorp Tower. Parker himself, having healed his wound with webs and seeing an open road, rushes to meet his enemy, while the police, in the meantime, close off the entire block, clearing the area for battle. Captain Stacy, who arrives at the corporate tower, intercepts Gwen with the antidote and goes to the top of the tower to give the vial to Peter Parker. At the top of the tower, Dr. Connors installs the Ganali device to spray the biological weapon of mass cross-species mixing and launches the system, which will set off the detonation in 2 minutes. At this point, Spider-Man ambushes the villain and knocks the lizard down. Connors, much larger and stronger, succeeds in hitting Parker. After wearing the hero down, the lizard wraps his powerful tail around his neck, rendering him unable to attack or defend himself, and rips the mask from his face, anticipating a swift retribution against his adversary. At this critical moment, Captain Stacy comes to Spider-Man's aid. The man shoots at a pipe leading to the liquid nitrogen tank, fracturing it. Parker then grabs the pipe and directs the chilling jet straight at his foe, helping the hero break free of the lizard's choke. The spider drops the villain into a compartment on the roof, full of tanks of liquid nitrogen, which Captain Stacy proceeds to pierce with rifle shots. The captain distracts the lizard from Spider-Man and gives Parker the antidote vial to prevent a biological catastrophe. 30 seconds remain before the machine detonates, and Spider-Man rushes to the top of the tower to the Ganali device. Dr. Connors, meanwhile, breaks free from the freezing trap. Having instantly grown new limbs, he sinks his claws into Captain Stacy and, leaving him to die, rushes off in pursuit of Spider-Man. 10 seconds remain before the detonation. The reptile climbs up in fury, shaking the iron structure, but Parker manages to replace the vial, and the device fires a blast of energy into the sky, which disperses over the city in a bright blue cloud. The antidote particles also land on the reptile's skin, triggering the process of reverse transformation, which causes the Doctor to immediately lose his inhuman strength and plummet down, hitting the metal construction of the tower, which crumbles to pieces due to the effects of the nitrogen. Parker goes down with it as well, but after hitting the roof and surviving the fall, he hangs over the precipice between life and death, from which, as it turns out, he is saved by his recent enemy, already half transformed into a human. After escaping the trap, Parker rushes to Captain Stacy's rescue. Peter witnesses the last seconds of his life. The captain gives the spider back his mask, and before drawing his last breath, makes him promise to always protect and look after Gwen. As always, you'll find the name of the movie in the description of the video. And in the comments, let us know what you think. Is it true in real life as well, that with great power comes great responsibility? And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next awesome retelling. Watch an interesting movie in a few minutes without rewind? Easy!
We got a great looking audience tonight.
The Sweet Popcorn channel has a mega convenient format waiting just for you. Short retellings of movies, from auteur films to Hollywood blockbusters. Pick up your unlimited ticket by clicking the subscribe button.